one of the questions that people ask me a lot is, am I on my soul's path, or did I screw it up? Did I miss it? And as my guides show it to me, there is no way you can miss your soul's path, because just by being here in a body, you're on the path. This is it. This is your soul's path. Can you, while you're here, enhance your understanding of that path? Can you respond to that path in greater love? Can you have a fuller and more delicious experience of your soul path? Why, yes, you can. And that's the place where listening to your intuition, saying yes to who you really are, having a spiritual practice that keeps you in touch with spirit a little tiny bit every day, those are the things that help you be in alignment.
Welcome to Alignment Adventures. This is a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I am so grateful that you are here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Adventures. I am incredibly grateful and honored that you decided to join me again today. And I cannot wait for you guys to hear this interview with intuitive guide Karen Hager. This one was just so magical. She has such a beautiful, loving energy. I know I say that all the time, but I'm just in awe that I get to have these conversations with these beautiful souls. Like, this is something that I get to do and provide for all of you, because I would just do this for fun. I do this for fun. That's why I do this. This is my highest joy, to talk to these beautiful souls and bring you these expansive, magical conversations. Again, we cover so many topics, from what does it mean to live in alignment? Of course, that's my go-to question, why I created this podcast, a little bit about Karen's journey and how she got to where she is as an intuitive guide, stepping into our authenticity. I know that is something that so many of us struggle with, loving ourselves. We also touch on, this may not surprise you guys because this is the interesting topic for Lindsay, and she ponders this one all the time, but we touch on how religion and spirituality connect. And I think Karen's explanation is one of my favorite explanations for organized religion and how that really affects our lives. Just absolutely love her explanation of that. We talk about how we're in Earth School and how we came here to learn specific lessons and how we can try to figure out what that lesson is, how to connect with our intuition. One of my main goals on here, being present. And we also talk about soulmates, not something I touch on as much, just because I feel like that's not something that is present in my awareness, but we filmed this or recorded this on Valentine's Day, so it felt so timely. And again, so interesting hearing her perspective on what soulmates are and how they affect our lives. So with all that being said, let's get right into the conversation. You guys are going to love this one. Karen, thank you so much for coming on Alignment Adventures. I just know already this is going to be a magical and expansive conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm really glad to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well, let's just start off by answering the question that I love to ask, because there's so many ways you could answer this. But who is Karen?
Oh, who is Karen? I am a wonder, a mystery to myself, probably a mystery to other people. I am a mom to two amazing boys. I'm a professional intuitive and teacher. I am a lover of all things Sherlock Holmes. I am addicted to jigsaw puzzles. I am Kathy's wife. I am Maisie the dog's faithful servant. And I am always growing and learning and changing. So it's hard to, I guess, who am I now? I am all those things. If you ask me in 10 minutes, I bet more things will have been added to that. So that's who I am.
I love that answer. And I think that's true. Sometimes we really get to know someone through like the nuances and like the little things they do, like jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
Those are like the fun things that really kind of help paint a picture of who that person is, even though we know we are all, just pure love and essence and our souls at the core. It's kind of fun to hear those little tidbits too. So thank you for sharing that. And the second question I always like to ask, because it just kind of gives us a taste of how you work in this field of spirituality, but what does living an aligning life mean to you?
For me, it's come to mean being unafraid to show up exactly as I am. Being in alignment to me means that I'm always adjusting, balancing, always paying attention to the places where I can return to center, and then giving myself the grace to learn to return to center when I notice
Mm,
that. Um, it's so easy, and I think so much in the way we live our lives today is designed to throw us off center and keep us off center.
mm,
And so it takes intention. It takes really being willing to sort of be present with yourself in order to live in an aligned way. I have never met anyone who's in perfect alignment. I'm not in perfect alignment. I'm not sure that that's a thing. Maybe for like a quarter of a second, look, I'm in alignment. Oh, no, nope, too bad. Done, not in alignment anymore. So I love that idea of alignment as something that is vibrant, always growing, always changing. For me to
mm.
live an aligned life means that I try to get a good work-life balance. I work an awful lot, but I'm lucky
Yeah.
to work at things I love. To try to get that good work-life balance, it also means to be sure that I'm allowing time for the things that light me up, those silly things like jigsaw puzzles and
Yes.
knitting and all kind old movies and all those things I love. And that's part of what helps keep me in alignment too.
Mm.
So yeah, does that sort of answer that question? It's a really broad question because what's in alignment for one person might not be aligned for the next person.
Yes, you totally answer that. And I agree. And I think that is the one thing about our humanness is we do try to find that one size fits all, but it's so unique to every single one of us. And like you said, perfect alignment doesn't exist. I've
Mm.
heard other enlightened beings say this, like you don't get a certificate when you reach enlightenment, which is a different thing. But like you don't get a certificate when you reach alignment, right? Because it's constantly shifting and evolving and it's like this weaving path. So I love, love, love the way you explain that. Now, I'm sure everyone's curious, myself included.
Mm.
Could you just share a little bit about your journey? Like, how did you discover that you had the gifts and abilities that you have now, which I guess on some level we might all have, which we can talk about
Yes.
that later. But I'm sure it was something you knew from the beginning. But what has that journey really been like for you to live in
Mm.
a world, like we said, that doesn't necessarily support the things that we talk about or support a life in alignment and, just kind of developing those abilities?
I started out wacky, so you're right. I knew from the very beginning that I was a strange one. I, as a young child, was very psychic as a young child, and I, at about the age of 4.5 or so, told my guides to shut up and go away.
Mm,
And I spent from that time until I was in my early 40s trying as hard as I could not to be intuitive. I failed at that miserably. Anytime there's something true, any kind of truth, when we deny it and work against it, it always comes back to bite us in the behind. So it will always, always, always keep coming back as long as we deny it. When I got into my early 40s, I had a series of experiences that led me to understand kind of a deep knowing that
mm,
if I didn't do something about this intuitive ability or this way of knowing or my weird psychic gift, that I was going to really be in trouble. The contrast between it being there and me trying to deny it was just getting too great.
mm,
So when I was in my early 40s, I said yes to my intuitive ability. I started to work with an intuitive development teacher, the wonderful Matthew Engel, who is still practicing today, is in San Francisco. So started to study with Matthew Engel. And as I worked with him, he really helped me gain the confidence to start to bring my own style of intuitive
mm,
connection to work with other people. During the time that I had been denying my intuitive ability, I had had training as a pastoral counselor. I had been in seminary.
mm,
I was in the Episcopal Church, and so I had learned a lot about liturgy and helping people who were on their spiritual journey find their way to the next steps. So I already had a good training and background in the kind of work I do now, but I hadn't ever let myself use my intuition, bring my intuition into that. And working with an intuitive development teacher helped me start to put that in a kind of context.
Mm.
And I remember the day that I asked Matthew, I was like, well, great class. What should I do next? Hoping that he would say, you'll have to study with me for another 35 years, or it'll take a really long. And he's, instead of saying that, he said, you should print business cards. And this is back in the day when there were business. Hey, kids, remember business cards?
Mm.
And I did. And for whatever reason, I felt guided strongly to just start to work as an intuitive.
Mm.
And now, over the more than 15 years that I've been working as a professional intuitive, my practice has evolved and changed. And I think this goes to that question about alignment too. The more open I was to saying yes to who I really am,
Mm.
instead of denying who I am or trying to pretend something is true about me that isn't true, when I stopped pretending and I said yes, everything opened up. So that's kind of what my journey has been like. I love this work, and I learn something from every single person I talk to. And that's still true after all these years. I'm an intuitive development teacher as well. I learned something from every single one of my students. We were in class last night, and I was sitting listening to the students talk about what they were learning and their questions. And sometimes I just am amazed. How did I get so lucky?
Mm.
Wow, there's all those cool people. There's so much to learn. It never ends. There's always more. And so that's part of I think my journey goes from trying to shut everything down to finding myself in a place of sitting in wonder with how much there is.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That so many things there that just like ping, ping, ping with my awareness. The first is I also agree that sometimes we are like the teacher and sometimes we are the student. And I feel like that role, you just kind of flip back and forth all the time. Like you're learning from your students and there's a teacher to you and vice versa.
Yeah.
And another thing you said about denying who you are, I can just feel that that resonates with me and resonates with so many people. So many people are going through the motions of their life, denying their truth or ashamed or scared or fearful of what if they step into this thing that they're feeling called to do. Do you have any like pieces of advice of like working past fear or self-doubt or anything that gets in the way? Because I know so many people feel that like they know their authenticity, but they're just not allowing themselves to express that for whatever reason.
So maybe the first thing that I would say would be to start from the place of knowing that you are okay, no matter where you are or how you are right now, no matter what you're going through, no matter what's been done to you or what you've done or what you're afraid is going to happen, or no matter what truth you deny or what you're running from or what you're running toward, you really are okay. So spirit sees and holds us. So when I say spirit, I mean source or God or the divine, the holy, embraces us and sees us and knows us as we truly are, no matter what games we're playing with ourselves. So sometimes when I connect with people who are worried that they're not living their authentic life and they're afraid and they don't know how to step into that newness, they think that if they mess this up, first of all, that spirit's angry with them because they haven't been authentic. And second, that if they step into this and they mess it up, then it's over. You get one. No, that's not how it works. You're okay as you are right now, no matter what is happening. And you can take the tiniest, most delicious, sweetest, most compassionate steps into the new thing without changing every aspect of your life. There's a kind of spiritual teaching that says you have to abandon all fear. You've got to just jump off the rim of the Grand Canyon and hope that you can fly. And if you believe hard enough, you'll fly and then you'll have it right. And if you fall to the bottom, well, too bad. Should have tried harder. Should have done more affirmations. That's not how it works. That's not, to my way of thinking, an authentic teaching. You are already seen and known and loved and held in the highest light. And so, as you start to make those tentative, sweet forays into what is new, let yourself love your way into it instead of feeling like I'm not authentic. I've got to change everything. This changes today. Anytime we do anything with a feeling of like punishment about it or judgment about it or sarcasm about it, anytime we do that, it sort of poisons the thing that we're moving toward. So be gentle with yourself if you're moving into something new. Take tiny, tiny steps, celebrate the smallest victories. And when you take that step and then all of a sudden find yourself back where you were before, smile at that. Ah, back where I was before. I remember this place. Okay, here we go again. Let's take another step. That's how I believe we can create lasting change, with compassion and like stick-to-itiveness and resilience, and just be gentle with yourself. It's these change like this is in some sense much easier than we are led to believe.
I feel that
Mm.
on such a level. Just in your energy, such a loving energy, the way that we go about life. And that seems to be the missing piece in most
Yeah.
like suffering or unalignment or unfulfillment,
Yeah.
is just loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves as we go through this journey, as we try to figure it out.
Yeah. And it should come so naturally to us because we are beings of divine love, created by divine love, reflections to divine love. It should come naturally, but we get conditioned out of that.
Yeah.
If I sit down and say to someone, tell me 3 things that you love about yourself right now, they might make jokes, or they'll kind of waffle, or they'll make up some, I don't know, I have pretty hair, or I can always get the dog food can open on the first try. But if I say, what are the things you don't like about yourself? What are the things you're working? They've got 321,000 things. They've got a list of things that they don't love, that they don't like, things that they want to change. And it should be the opposite of that,
Mm.
because we are reflections of divine love always. And part of what we do here, I believe, in our earth school journey, is we're trying to come to terms with, how can I find that divine love in myself, in everything I do, even though I have all these reasons I shouldn't like myself. I was mean to somebody once when I was 5 years old. I ate all the ham sandwiches after I promised I wouldn't do it. I was mean to whatever that is. And yet we are allowed to, we're kind of supposed to be living in divine love. When I say supposed to, I don't mean, oh, not living in divine love, well, now you're in big trouble, guessing there's no divine love for you. I don't mean it that way. I mean, we rest in, float in, are supported in divine love all the time. How we feel about ourselves is kind of a minor thing when you look at it in that perspective. So do you know what I mean?
Totally. And I'm so interested in something that you said in your journey, how you said you were in the seminary, I think it's called, or
Mhm.
on that path.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you were like in traditional religion, which
Yep.
I find so fascinating how it connects with, what we're talking about now. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that, because I think a lot of people's, I hate to say the word trauma, but like
Yeah.
sometimes there's trauma, and sometimes that story of I'm going to get in trouble if I don't do it a certain way comes from these stories of certain religions. So I'd love to hear your take on religion and how that relates to what we're talking about here.
Well, there can be a kind of a deep, shameful, lasting wounding
Yeah.
that is perpetrated in the name of God, or name your deity here. The thing about so let's see, let me go back. So I was in seminary. I was preparing for ordination to the priesthood in the Episcopal Church. It's a very
Wow.
long process in that church. You don't just like fill out a form online and then you get to be a priest. It's a very long process. There's a lot of committee work. There's a lot of, wow, is it a long process, and a lot of education that goes into it. I was fortunate that my experience of organized religion was in a very tolerant environment. I'm gay. There were other gay people there in seminary with me. That was all fine. We were in Northern California, so hey, anything goes. So it was I had a kind of I wouldn't call it idyllic, but I had a more liberal than some experience of organized religion. And the seminary that I went to was training students in that kind of very, I'm going to say, liberal tradition. And one of the gifts of seminary, and this is part of what I feel about religion, is it made it really clear to me that if religion is our response to the action of divine love in our lives, it's important to remember that the religion was made by the people. The religion wasn't created by the deity or divine love or source. So just like a company selling shoelaces, organized religion is something, an organization created by people, and anything the humans do, we're going to put ourselves into it. So it's going to have all our generosity and all our dreaminess and our manifesting power and all our goodness, and it's also going to have our greed, our secrets, our shaming, our judgment, the way we mess things up. It's going to have all our limits in it. So organized religion doesn't have a lot to do with spirituality and divine love. It is one kind of response that people come together and create to respond to that divine love. And for some people, organized religion can be a wonderful support, community, family, right? Beautiful things can happen through organized religion, but it's got people in it. And anytime we've got people in something, there's going to be trouble. The same is true for non-organized religion. We can find the same toxicity in non-denominational, kind of loosely put together New Age movements or spirituality. We can find the same toxicity in that just because it's people, it's us. So again, that part of what we're working through in our Earth School journey is that paradox between our limitless kind of divine nature, the beauty of us, the power of us, that connection with spirit, and our limited sort of sweaty, stinky, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that, human nature. We're always working through that paradox. So I'm not against organized religion or for organized religion. For me, I got to a place in my seminary education where I felt very strongly that if I continued on this path, it was a path that would limit the kind of good work I could do in the world. And so I stepped off that path, which was not easy to do. And there were a lot of really difficult conversations. And I wasn't sure what in the world I was going to do next. I sure as heck didn't think I was going to go be a professional intuitive teacher. That's not what I thought I was going to do. But I knew I had to step out. And that stepping out, Lindsay, was one of the ways that I said yes to who I really was. And that was scary. And it felt so good to tell the truth. Because I didn't realize how long that I hadn't been honest with myself about that. You know, things would come up that I would feel weren't right for me. And I would kind of pass them off or brush them off or, nah, well, I'll think about that later. But when I finally said, you know what, this is it, this isn't the right place for me, I can't continue here, that felt great, even as it was scary.
Karen, I don't know if I've heard anyone explain that so well as you did. I struggle with like the religion and spirituality thing a lot because, you know, I'm a part of a family that goes to church and, you know, I'm not against that necessarily, but the way you explain that just hit on a soul level. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that as well, because we're just trying to like reconcile it all in our brain. And you're right, like anything that we have our humanness in is going to have both sides of that, the good and the bad.
Yeah. And that's part of the message of most, maybe all spiritual traditions, that there's divinity in us, and we also are somehow reaching out toward that divinity, wanting more of that divinity in us. I resonate really strongly with the work, especially of the Christian mystics, just because for me, Christianity is that's just kind of how I'm wired, right? So I resonate especially with the work of the Christian mystics. So people like Teresa of Avila, for example, people who she's wonderful. Mirabai Starr has a new set of translations of some of her work just out, and that's, go get that. But the mystics, who were people who lived kind of outside the mainstream, even as they were part of the mainstream, and yet lived their lives with this kind of passionate connection to divine love. I've always had a deep connection with that. I don't know if I would say that I am one of those mystics, because they were like writing cool things and doing cool things and changing the structure of all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'd call myself a mystic, but the way that my heart opens to divine love, to me, I find resonance for that when I read the work of the mystics. And the mystics often were not seen favorably by the traditional church, and yet they were part of it. So um if so when people are feeling like outsiders, whether that they're in organized religion or they're outside of organized religion, when they're feeling like outsiders and they say, Karen, I feel like an outsider, should I feel more like I belong, or shouldn't I feel more like this is a community for me? I say congratulations on being an outsider. It sometimes is the outsiders who spirit touches the most deeply, the ones who are willing to be on the edges just a little bit. So
So good. I could talk about that all day. I find that so interesting. So thank you for sharing. Now I want to go back to something you've been referencing, Earth School. And that also resonates with me so much. I'm like, why are we here? What's the purpose? Okay, if we are divine love, why do we come here and experience all this suffering? Because we're in Earth School. Like, that makes sense to me. So do you find that, especially with the people you work with and through your work, that we come here with like specific purposes or kind of a general purpose? Or how can we use that concept of Earth School, I guess, to help us navigate what we should do with our life?
So I believe, so for me, one of the organizing principles of everything is the idea that there is always more. So we can always love more, we can always receive more, we can always open to more, we get more chances. And part of that, there is always more, is about our lifetime here. So while we're in it, this lifetime is all we can see. It's all we know. It's all we remember. It's all it's it, because we're in it, right? And it's Earth School and we're here. But I believe that our time here in these physical bodies is part of us something more, which is a bigger spiritual journey that we are undergoing. And I believe that when we are about to come in and take another ride on the Earth School Ferris wheel, before we take our body, that we sit down with our guides, the beings who are going to be our guides when we come into our bodies, and also with our what I think of as our soul family. Different teachers have different definitions for what soul family means. When I say soul family, I mean people, energies with whom we have had embodied experiences with again and again and again. Kind of like the ensemble cast, like a director who makes movies with the same actors all the time, but the actors change parts. It's kind of like that. So soul family. And we sit down and we look at, okay, Karen, you're going into the meat suit this time. Your turn on the Ferris wheel. What do you want to work on? And we work that stuff out. We decide before we come in the things we most want to work on in broad strokes. And then we go catapulting down that, whatever that is. I always think of it as like one of those laundry chutes, where the thing opens up and you're like, ah, then you end up and oh, look, I'm a baby. We come down into our bodies. We promptly forget the whole thing. And the Earth School experience is about using our free will and working into that paradox I mentioned between the limitless and the limited parts of our being. Earth School is about working through all that in a free will journey to try to resolve some of those things we said we wanted to work on before we came into the body. Our guides are there to help us. Our soulmates, who are usually people from that soul family ensemble cast that we talked with before we came down the laundry chute, they show up to try to help us. We are helping other people on their soul paths, even though we probably don't know it at the time. And we go through this life as almost like as a learning experience for us, not so that at the end we can win something. Yay, I got a 9 out of 10 in Earth School, but so that when we drop our bodies and we go back up through the laundry chute, right, to get to be with spirit, that we will have learned something that helps our soul's own evolution. So while we're in it, Earth School is the most important thing. But there's a lot of context outside of that, at least as my guides have talked to me about it, there's a lot of context outside of that we can't see.
So interesting and mind-blowing. I love, love that. How can we figure out, this is the question my mind has. Okay, how do I figure out what my soul decided to come here to work on? Do Do you think it's the fear that comes up or the challenges that come up? Are those the things that are kind of guiding you towards what you specifically came here to work on, or not necessarily?
So I'm gonna sort of answer it two ways. The big way, and it's kind of a bratty way to answer this question, so I apologize. I'm gonna be a brat. The bratty way is you're probably not gonna know for sure, because the whole point is that you don't know for sure and you're working your way toward it, right? So not to be a brat, but you're probably not going to know for sure.
Sure.
And given the nature of our humanity, the thing we think we know for sure that it is probably definitely not it, right? So just because of the way
The paradox.
It goes, okay. So another way of looking into that, though, feeling into that, is that as we go through our lifetime here, this incarnation, this time around, as we go through our lifetime with openness and curiosity, it's always fun to see what our intuition guides us towards. It's always fun to see what we choose to say yes to. And those things that we feel drawn toward, the things that we say yes to, the things that leave the biggest impression on us, stories that we hear, maybe something that the way that a member of our family influences us, right? I'll never forget the time my uncle gave his coat to that stranger on the street. The things that stay with us very often do point us in the direction that we can walk to be more better aligned with our soul's purpose. Sometimes people will, so I do a lot of private intuitive sessions, like about 1,200 a year, probably more than that now. So I do a lot. One of the questions that people ask me a lot is, am I on my soul's path, or did I screw it up? Did I miss it? And as my guides show it to me, there is no way you can miss your soul's path, because just by being here in a body, you're on the path. This is it. This is your soul's path. Can you, while you're here, enhance your understanding of that path? Can you respond to that path in greater love? Can you have a fuller and more delicious experience of your soul path? Why, yes, you can. And that's the place where listening to your intuition, saying yes to who you really are, having a spiritual practice that keeps you in touch with spirit a little tiny bit every day, those are the things that help you be in alignment. Can you come into Earth School and completely blow up your soul path and not get it right? And then when you drop your body, St. Peter's standing there with a yardstick, like, no, sorry, that was terrible. You really blew it. I'm going to have to wrap you over the, no, it doesn't work that way. So just by being here, you're on your soul path. The question is more about, how can I be more attuned with that and enjoy it and learn from it more?
I know this episode is good, but so is this announcement. So as you guys know, I have been on a mission to help as many people as possible live their most aligning lives. And that is why I created my first ever class. Yes, I'm going back to the quote unquote classroom as a teacher and teaching my first class, Live Your Most Aligned Life. It is starting on March 6th and it will be 8 weeks long, and we will have a live class, which is online through Zoom, every Monday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and it will be focused on a topic around living your most aligning life, from practicing gratitude to connecting to your internal guidance, to setting intentions and using the law of attraction, to surrendering, and also working through those limiting beliefs, those mind stories, those things that are stopping you, that are keeping you stuck and feeling unfulfilled. We're going to work through that stuff, and you're going to get all these tools that you can use as you step into your highest self, so you can go on living your most aligning life. So like I said, each week will include a live class where we will talk about the topic of that week. And then starting week 2, we will also be doing internal guidance work. So yes, just like you've heard on the few episodes I've had recently, I will be getting you into your internal guidance and asking your internal guidance questions relating to your life, so you can start connecting and living and acting and making decisions from that space, that part of you, because it is part of you that loves you so much. When you tap into that space and start living from your internal guidance, guys, it is pure magic. And I just want to share that with as many people as possible. Each week, you will also get a yoga flow and a meditation aligned to the topic of that week, as well as some aligned actions, or I guess you could call them homework. We're just kind of rebranding that word, again, pertaining to the topic of that week. You will also get one 60-minute one-on-one internal guidance session with myself. So we'll be doing some internal guidance work within the live classes with everyone. So you'll get to hear other people getting into their internal guidance, but you will also get your own personalized 60-minute one-on-one internal guidance session to really make sure you have and find that connection. I want to help as many of you as I can really tap into that energy. And what's cool is once you get in that energy, you know how to do it. And again, you can take that throughout your life and tap into it more and more and more. You will also get access to a group chat with all of your classmates and myself, so you can ask questions and get support really at any time throughout this process. And it's also going to be a space where we can celebrate and connect, because I know sometimes when you're on this journey, it can feel really lonely when no one else around you is going through this stuff or trying to live this way or connected to their internal guidance. So I want to create a space where we can really support and love each other. I've noticed so many of us love to consume this content and we love to take in all the stuff and it makes sense. And we're like, yes, this is how we should live, but we struggle implementing it. That is why I've created this course. So you can stop feeling stuck and actually embody and implement these concepts to help you live your most aligning life. So if you're interested, I will leave a link in the show notes or the description wherever you are listening to this episode. Make sure you sign up before March 6th so you can get in before we get started with class. And this is the first time I'm running it, so it's a super discounted offer. As always, check in with your internal guidance. Do you have the nudge to join us? If you do, I encourage you to follow that nudge, and I would be honored to have you in Live Your Most Aligned Life. See you in class. Everything you say, Karen, I can just feel it in my heart.
It's part of how you know you're not just talking to me because I'm just a nice lady in my office in Michigan. When I teach or talk or give readings, I'm like half in and half out of channels. So I'm here as Karen, cracking jokes and that kind of stuff, but I'm also letting my guides speak through me just a little bit, just because that's the way that they work with me. So if I say something cool or smart, that's because of them.
So
and
humble.
I'm just doing the nice lady part. I don't know if I'm even humble. That's just kind of the way it is, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of a nice grandma lady in Michigan, and one of the gifts, one of the best things about me saying yes is that I've been able to build a relationship with my guides where, especially when I most need it, when someone's asking questions, when there's teaching to do, when there's something I want to learn, I know how to get out of the way a little bit and let my guides speak through me. And I never would have imagined that my life would turn out like that. So there it is.
So beautiful. So beautiful. And I just encourage anyone out there feeling that same feeling, just to get confirmation, like that's your soul, your intuition being like, yes, this resonates with you. This is your truth. Like when you can feel it in your body, I like crave this experience so much because I'm like, yes, this is what it's about. And that kind of leads me to my next question. And you talked about it a little bit. From your perspective, how can we tune into our intuition more? That is something I talk about all the time. And one of my main missions, I feel like, to help people connect to their intuitive nudges in their voice. You know, it's just like a muscle we forgot we have. But from your perspective, what can we do to connect to that more and more?
I love that you said it's a muscle we forgot we have. I agree. So everybody, without exception, has natural intuitive ability. It's part of, we bring that in with us when we come down the laundry chute, right? So it's part of, there's a little, I think of it like a pilot light, sort of, there's a little intuitive flame in us that never goes out. It always connects us with home. So part of how we connect with our intuition is just by getting quiet enough that we can remember that we're intuitive. I'm a good example of someone who I tried to shout it down crush it, blow out the flame, ignore it, pretend it wasn't. Yeah, I did a great job of being intuitive for those first 40 some years of my life, right? No matter what you do, that intuitive flame is there. So to get in touch with your intuition, it starts by getting quiet and feeling into that sense of knowing that you have always had, no matter what you've been telling yourself. So that's step one. Step one is allowing it. Something that I ask students of mine to do at the very beginning of our time together, when we're first starting out, very like before the very first class, is to spend a few seconds every day, and I mean seconds, sitting with your eyes open, your hands open, your heart open, and just being present with exactly what is around you. So we're not going to close our eyes. We're not going to meditate. We're not calling in Archangel Michael to bring us a sandwich. We're not, none of that. There's no mantras, no nothing. Sit with your eyes open, your hands open, your heart open, and look around you. What do you see? What do you feel? What's happening now? The reason that that's connected with intuition is that intuition doesn't come from outside us. Intuition comes from inside us, informed by spirit, yes, with it, which is outside us and inside us. But intuition isn't something we have to clench our fists and bring in from outside. It's inside. When we get quiet, when we see what's around us, there's an opportunity there for a connection with the present moment. And the present moment is the seed of intuition. We can't connect intuitively when we're thinking about the future, worrying about the past, worrying about what's going to happen next. So present moment mindfulness. In those moments, which are usually seconds, because this sounds so easy, and it is the devil itself. It is so difficult to do this, right? It sounds a lot easier than it is. In those seconds, though, we sometimes find ourselves seeing the light coming in through the window in a way that makes us feel something special. When you feel something like that, say thank you. Even if you don't know what it is, you don't know who you're thanking, you have no, just when you feel something out of the ordinary, say thank you. As you go about your day, you're washing the dishes, or you're walking the dog, or you're taking the kids to school. When you see something beautiful or feel something beautiful, say thank you. If you want to take that a little farther, and if you're okay with the language of this, when you wake up in the morning, you can say something like, good morning, guides, I love you. Show me something beautiful today. And whatever you see, say thank you. So you start gently having a conversation with your own intuitive ability. All we're doing is gently just coming back into that light that you already hold. That's a good start. That present moment practice that sounds so easy and is so hard is, I tease that it's a gateway drug, right? Because you get a little bit of that awareness and you're going to want more. So the first taste is free, right? And then you want to do it all the time. As you find yourself creating more opportunities for present moment mindfulness during the day, you're also creating more opportunities for your intuition to connect, for your guides to connect through you. So that's how I'd start to answer that question. Gently be present with yourself as you are and listen, pay attention, say thank you, honor your hunches also is a good way to do that.
So good. Just soaking it all in like a sponge over here. So good. And I loved what you said. I agree. Like all this talk about the devil is how hard it is to be in the present moment. It actually makes me angry sometimes, how much I intentionally try to be present. And it's extremely difficult to be constantly present. If not, I don't know if it's impossible, but feels impossible sometimes. And you're right. Like those small moments of just pausing and tuning back in are magical. And it's just so hard to get those in this day and age with addicted to social media and our phones and all that. So such beautiful reminders.
And there isn't a requirement to be always in the present moment all the time. I don't know if we can, honestly, the way that we're wired as people, I don't know if we can do that. So just like you were saying, there's no requirement to be in alignment all the time. You don't get a sticker that says I was enlightened today and then then you're done. There isn't a requirement to be in the present moment all the time. But part of what spiritual practice is, and part of what deepening our connection to the divine is when we realize we're not in the present moment, when we feel like we're not in alignment, we can take a breath and return to that. So
Mm.
we don't have to be there in all the time. I wouldn't expect us to be there. I like a little true crime drama on Netflix as much as anybody else. And when I need to come back to the present moment, I can take a breath and bring myself right back. And so can you. You don't have to pay anybody to learn that. You don't have to go to special school. You don't have to buy special pants or get a mat or something. All you need to do is take that breath, realize you're not in the present moment, take a breath and return. And that's all.
The present moment is just a breath away.
It's everything. And it is everything, right? And like everything we're talking about, it is always changing. This present moment is different than the one coming after that, and the one coming after that. All I need to do is be present with what is.
Mm. Yes, 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 yes. In this present moment, I'm just soaking in your energy.
I'm reaching for my water. Let's see if I have it. Nope, I've got it. Found the water. Also soaking
Okay.
in it.
Well, I have a few more questions for you to respect your time. You said something earlier that sparked my brain and in theme with the holiday. I mean, we're recording this on Valentine's Day, but it's probably not going to come out on Valentine's Day. But you said soulmates. I would love to hear your take on soulmates. And, the traditional sense is probably not necessarily what happens. Like you said, our souls come in usually with the same group. Is that what you refer to as soulmates, or what does that mean necessarily?
So I believe, and this is through what my guides have shared with me, there are books and teachers lining up to disagree with me, so your mileage may vary. As I believe, a soulmate is someone with whom you've made an agreement before you came in, that you're going to meet each other on the path. There will be some kind of meaningful exchange. There's going to be an exchange of gifts. We'll learn from each other. And then usually you each go on down your separate paths. It is very unusual for people to have a soulmate who they go down the whole path with, right? Like from the time you come into the time you leave. That's extremely unusual. Soulmates usually are people who pop up like characters in that ensemble movie that we're making, right? Who pop up to give us gifts. Sometimes your soulmate might be your lover or your partner. Sometimes a soulmate could be a sister or your father. Sometimes a soulmate could be your worst enemy, that boss at work who is always getting on your nerves and you can't agree, and it's the biggest problem. And sometimes a soulmate might be somebody who drops off a bouquet of flowers on a day when you most needed something beautiful, and then you never see them again, don't even know their name. So soulmates are beings that we have with whom we've made agreements before we come in to learn from. One of the challenges I see when I'm looking at people who are in romantic relationships, especially with soulmates, and that happens, is that when the gifts have been given, soulmate relationships are meant to stop. And everybody goes on about their separate ways. There's more learning to do, more life to live. We go our separate ways. There has been a kind of traditional teaching that when you find your soulmate, you marry them and you're together forever, amen, and there's no trouble, and that kind of teaching leads people to get stuck in soulmate relationships where the gifts have been given long ago. Both people are unhappy and suffering, and the people's growth is being kind of stunted because they're hanging on to this soulmate idea. So if you're in a romantic relationship with a soulmate, a good question to ask yourself is, what are the gifts that are still being given? What am I giving to that person? What is that person giving to me? Are we still learning from each other? And just like any other relationships, because of course we have lovers and partners who are not soulmates, just like in any relationship, if the gifts have been given, it's always good to consider, is it time now to break that up? There's so much pain that I see in people who are clinging to soulmates with whom the times run out for them. They'd both be happier going another way. So I don't see soulmates as what some teachers might call twin flames. I really do see them as part of that ensemble cast.
Such a powerful way to look at that. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that. whether it's a romantic relationship or even a friendship,
Yeah.
our minds want things to be permanent, like this person's in my life forever. And that may not always be the case, but I do feel like I'm seeing more instances of people call it like conscious uncoupling, or like it's seeming like it's starting to drift that way where it's not as much of a stigma to, decide to be together and then not be together, whether that is through marriage or whatever it is. So just
Yeah.
interesting to observe that evolve in our society.
Well, and if for me, as I'm feeling into that idea of there's always more,
Hmm.
why why wouldn't I allow myself to love in all the ways that I can love? So if you and I are soulmates and we have a wonderful, passionate relationship, and then it's time and we consciously uncouple, why wouldn't I allow myself to continue to love you? Just as we'll both go on to love other people, form other relationships, do whatever. Why would I have to, if we break up with each other, why would I have to hate you or shun you or say, why can't I continue to love? One of the things that I think our kind of human program limits us in is we're taught there are only certain, here's how relationships work, here's how families work, it has to be this way, if it's not this way it isn't right. And I believe there's a more expansive viewpoint available. I can break up with you, we can be done, and I can continue to love you even if that means I love you at a distance. You can do a terrible wrong to me, and I can decide never to have anything to do with you ever again, and I can be angry at you, and I can also continue to love you from a distance because I know that you are a much loved child of the divine, just as I am. And no matter what passed between us, and I'm certainly not putting myself in that path again, not going to ever let that happen to me again. And I can still love you if I want to do that. But we get so limited by those ideas of love. But he was my soulmate, but it was love. We recognized each other. It was love. We get so bound up in those narrow ideas of love that we feel like we have to either cling on to the person forever or let go of them forever and not love them anymore. And that's a kind of limit that causes more pain.
Mm. We get so attached to the idea. That's, yeah, it's such a beautiful way of explaining that. Thank you so much. Okay. We only have a little bit of time left, so I want to ask my questions I love to ask at the end. I have so many things I want to ask you, so maybe I'll just have to come back on.
Okay.
First of all, I know a lot of people are really going to resonate with what you say. What are some ways that they can work with you, either one-on-one or a group setting, or what are the different things that you offer for people to work with you?
Oh my goodness. So my website's karenhager.com. And that has my whole world is in there. Also, if you want to see a picture of what I looked like with makeup on a really good day about 10 years ago, karenhager.com. There's a big picture of me right there. So karenhager.com, you can find out about what classes are coming up, what events are coming up. Every month, I do an online gallery reading, which is a group of 8 people plus me. And we gather in a circle and I just go around that circle and do readings. So if we haven't worked together intuitively and you're wondering like, what's this lady like and what would it be like? That online gallery reading is a great entry point. That's so if you go to karenhager.com/gallery, you'll be able to see the dates of the next one coming up. I also offer classes. I offer a class for download called The Heart of Abundance, which is a class specifically focused on abundance that is based on that idea of there is always more that I was talking about. There's a downloadable class called Practical Protection for Empaths, which is a really good and practical. I love practical things because like all this unicorn stuff, and I mean, it's great, but how are you supposed to really use it in your life? So I like stuff that I can actually use. Practical Protection for Empaths and the Heart of Abundance class are both available as downloads on the classes page of my website. The heart of what I do and my great love is working with people one-on-one in private intuitive sessions. And you can find out how to book a reading with me at karenhager.com. There's a big button at the top that says book a reading, kind of underneath and to the left of that woman with the makeup on, who I don't know who she is. Click that button that says book a reading and you'll see my scheduler. And I'm teaching a class a couple times a year. I teach a class called Meet Your Guides. And that is it's an online class where it's designed to give you a direct experience of connection with one or more of your guides. It is about 90 minutes long. There's some teaching about guides, who they are and why they're with you and that kind of stuff. And the heart of that class is a guided group experience that I facilitate to really help you connect with your guides. It's done safely, and it is, so I was talking about how much I love to learn from my own students. I love teaching Meet Your Guides because one of the best things is the stories that people tell me afterwards about who they met and how it was. So the next Meet Your Guides is coming up on March 28th, and you'll also find that on my website as well. So sorry, that was a very long answer to a short question.
No, it's beautiful. It all sounds magical, and you may or may not be seeing Lindsay Tanner pop up in there. I am feeling so called to do a reading. And
Oh,
you know what I thought of the other day, because I always struggle with like what to gift people. What a fun gift to like gift someone a reading. I don't know if anyone's
no.
ever done that with you, but I just feel
Hey,
called to share that.
hey, gift certificates available online at KarenHager.com. So you go to
I love that.
KarenHager.com, there's a little thing that's like looking for gift certificates or want to send a gift certificate. Yep, just click that. It's fun because people do at the holidays, people do that. And I love connecting with people who they'll call me and say, look, I don't know what I'm getting into, but my brother gave me this for my birth, so I don't know. And I love reading for people who are a little bit skeptical or who don't know what to expect. I often, people will call and say, look, I've never done this before. And what I say to them is, okay, so although I've done this a lot, I've never done this before with you. So this is my first time with you too. The cool thing about intuitive connection is it is different every single time, because what I'm doing as a reader is connecting to the unique essence of the person on the other end of the phone. And I read from the voice, by the way, so I never see the person I'm talking to. I don't want to be able to make assumptions about someone by what they look like or what's in the background or the books that's on their shelves or the expression on their face. So I don't want any of that. I don't want to like cheat. That to me is like cheating. So I just read from the voice. And I love reading for people who are first timers because it's, man, it's fun. So
Oh, so cool. I just don't want to get people more stuff. So I'm like, a psychic reading is the perfect gift to give someone. So my last two questions, I love to ask these to round it out. This one's just fun, but what is one of your favorite alignment activities recently? I call them alignment activities, things that like take you to a different time and space that you just love doing just because they're fun.
I like jigsaw. I mentioned jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
I really like doing jigsaw puzzles. Um, so I naturally am a really anxious person, but at this time in my personal life, my wife is going through frontline treatment for cancer. My youngest son has mono. My oldest son has got this weird like heart thing nobody can figure out. And when I find myself absolutely losing my flaming mind with like stress and worry, I come right here into my office and I get out my puzzle board with my little jigsaw puzzle on it. Okay, it's a big jigsaw puzzle. I'm working right now on a puzzle called Night Reef. If you go over on Instagram, you can see I'm putting up progress pictures of that. I'm Fog City Psychic on Instagram. It's mostly black in the background, and then there are these beautiful iridescent sea creatures. It's a drawing, it's an illustration. And I come in here and I spend a few minutes with the octopus and the swordfish and putting together the little bits of kelp and the little schools of fish that are in the night reef. And there's something about working on a puzzle. I feel the same way about knitting too, that there's something about the tactile nature of working with the puzzle. I can feel the pieces in my hand. I can see where the colors go. That really brings me into alignment. So it's puzzles right now.
The way you describe puzzles, it's just a magical way to do puzzles. I love that you can make any activity, perceived mundane activity, magical when you go into it with that intention.
It's because everything is magical, right? Our biggest things, our most mundane things, our sufferings, our joys, all of it's magical. We just forget. And part of connecting with your intuition is connecting with the magic that's in all those moments. It doesn't mean pretend to like horrible things like cancer. It doesn't mean pretend to like that. It just means that in every moment, no matter what, there is magic. And we can find that unironically. find that.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. My last question. What is one piece of advice you'd give to anyone just starting on this journey? It could be in any stage, I guess. What is one piece of advice, if you have any, to give someone?
Slow down a second. Don't let anyone tell you what your goals should be, except for you, right? In 3 days, you'll be able to connect reliably with your guides and do these 12. No. Slow down. Take a breath. Start to really feel into the life you're living, no matter even if you're in an awful place right now or a great place right now. Slow down. Start to really feel into the life you're living. Say thank you for the things that you genuinely feel grateful for. If you are wanting to connect with your guides, connect to spirit, connect with your intuition, do that with a breath. Do that from the space of the present moment. When you find yourself hemmed in by other people's expectations, smile at that and go your own way. Remember, I think I said this earlier, remember that you're okay. You really are okay exactly as you are right now. And so this journey you're starting of intuition, of wonder, of spirituality, of connecting with spirit, this is like a response to how you are okay. I am okay, and I open to this new thing. That's what I would say. Open with grace and compassion and laughter, and go slow. And welcome to it, because there's fun to be had here.
Yes. Perfect way to end that. I love that. And yes, more fun. I need that reminder as well. Karen, thank you so much for sharing your magic, your beautiful, kind, loving, compassionate energy with us. This was such a joy.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. What fun. Thank you.
Again, Karen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. That was just such an honor to have that conversation with you. And I really do want to have her back on, because there were so many more things in terms of abundance and well-being that I wanted to ask her. So if you're interested in working with Karen, I am booking a psychic reading from her. I'll even share on here how that goes, because I'm so excited. I feel so called to do this. You can go to KarenHager.com, or you can find her on Instagram at Fog City Psychic. So I link both of those in the show notes. Please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. Please subscribe if you are new here. We have new episodes every week. We've been doing 2 a week for now. That may change, but at least 1 episode a week. If you're interested in working with me in my class that is coming up, you heard about in the middle of the episode, Live Your Most Aligned Life, use the link in the show notes, or you can reach out to me with any questions. So many options. Use your intuition to guide you. Follow those nudges on the different modalities and tools that you get to use or want to use to help you live your most aligned life. Sending you all so much love, all the highest vibes, and I will see you in the next episode of Alignment Adventures.